as the Matildas get set for their 2-game series against New Zealand in Gosford and Adelaide to see out 2025. Joe Montemurro has named his squad for the 2 matches. In goals, he selected Mackenzie Arnold, Chloe Lincoln and Tegan Micah. The defenders, Ellie Carpenter, Steph Catley, Charlie Grant, Winona Heatley, Claire Hunt, Alana Kennedy and Courtney Nevin. The midfielders, Kyra Cooney-Cross, Katrina Gorry, Amy Sayer, Emily Van Egmond, Claire Wheeler and Tamika Yallop. While the forwards, Caitlin Ford, Michelle Heyman, Carly Johnson makes her way back into the squad, Sam Kerr, Holly McNamara, Hayley Razzo, Remy Simpson, and Caitlin Torpy. My name is Poletti. Joining me today to chat about the squad list is Lachie Avil. And Lachie, are there any standouts to you?
Well, I mean, look, I've used this kind of analogy before. You can be the cool, hip one that ignores the big name because there's a little, underlying selection that has a cool story. But I don't think you can ignore the top line here, which is that Sam Kerr will be back on Australian shores, playing for Australia for the first time in 2 years. It's pretty exciting. And I think in the context of where the Matildas are as well, Poletti, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this. But given all the conversation that has happened essentially between the Olympic Games and now, is a very different conversation in terms of the vibe around the teams compared to the period before that, through the Women's World Cup and in the build up to the Olympic Games. So I think more than anything, obviously Joe Montemurro will have his tactical plans and the development of that moving into the Asian Cup, but particularly just with the sentiment around the Matildas, 2 games back on Australian soil with Sam Kerr backing in the team. We really want to just start feeling positive about this side, building in to an Asian Cup on home soil. The crowd and the country and the nation being involved in this journey is going to be so critical, I think, to the success of the team. So just to have a lot more positivity around the team and building up towards that tournament, I think, is the most crucial part. And Sam Kerr is going to play a big role in that.
Yeah, it was so Kerr's return to Australian soil was the big talking point this morning from the press conference, and let's just say Joe Montemurro was expecting it. We'll play a little bit of what he said about Sam Kerr now.
Sam Kerr, obviously named, coming back to Australia. There'll be lots of excited fans ready to see her. We know she's coming back from an injury. Can you talk about how much you rely on her?
Just give me a second on that one. I was just waiting for the Sam Kerr question. Yeah, I got it. I lost the bet. It took 2 minutes. No, all good. Look, she's doing really well, and she got 90 minutes during the week in the Champions League, obviously scoring goals, and that's where we want Sam to be. But she still needs to be managed. And we've been in close contact with Chelsea in terms of managing their minutes and so on. But leading into a big game, they've got Barcelona during the week, so it's understandable why they rested her.
Yeah, as you just said, she was rested, but she did say after she scored that brace, she felt like getting those couple of 90 or starts with the national team did help her sort of kick along. Do you feel like that's sort of an investment that is going to help pay off maybe as soon as this next window, just getting those minutes behind her?
Yeah, look, it's synonymous with attackers. Attackers, they need time, they need minutes because they're not involved in the game all the time. So the more they get game rhythm, the more they play, the more they get the minutes. They then find that moment to do what they need to do. They're not like defenders and midfielders. They get a lot of the ball and a lot of game time, into a lot of rhythm in terms of in possession and so on. So they have to find that rhythm. And it was good. It was good and really strategic to get her minutes in the 2 games in the UK.
Just integrating her back in as captain as well before coming back on home soil. How important was that, just getting the group back to where it was?
Absolutely, the group, it's an amazing group, and you really see, I really felt the power of them representing the country and what it means to a lot of those players, and the whole family sort of idea, because they've been around for a long time. They've been playing for the national team from a very young age, and that core group is special. We should really be applauding that group in terms of the work that's been done over the years, and and Sam's an integral part of that, and to have her there as that sort of gel in terms of all the group in terms of the leadership is really, really important.
Can you speak to some of the impact, if you're still managing Sam on the field, can you speak to some of the impact she has off the field, just lifting the group up and her experience and game intelligence?
She's a leader that's just her presence. She's not the most vocal leader, and and I think modern leaders are the ones that just having her around and knowing that she's got your back and that she's reliable for the team, and her selflessness is unbelievable. The little things she does at training, even just collecting the balls and picking up the cones after training. They're special qualities as a leader, and we're really happy to have her. But look, she's just part of that. They're all part of that selflessness of wanting to represent the country and wanting to be there in those special moments. And they know what it means to put on that jersey, and they're really looking forward to coming back together and really looking forward to the tournament.
We just heard from Joe there, Lachie, that she still needs to have her minutes managed, that, the Matildas and Montemurro are working closely with Chelsea on her return to full fitness, but that it's her leadership qualities are what really stand out, and part of the reason why Montemurro has been so keen to bring her back into the squad. Her off-field qualities, things like picking up training cones, after training sessions, the selfishness that she has, for her team, for the squad. I mean, those are all qualities that can't be mistaken, can they?
No, for sure. And, we saw Steph Catley in the last window, right, talking about the captaincy. And, Sam has always just been the captain and the leader of this team. And unfortunately, she stepped away for a little bit of time due to her injuries, which, has given the impression that maybe she isn't the captain, and she hasn't been able to be involved, which has been unfortunate. But to be someone who sets the standards for the team and pushes them on and is so well liked by everybody and really acts as the fulcrum of, the mentality of the squad is so important. So even we seen her be a part of camps even when she wasn't properly fit, and just being amongst training, being amongst the team and building back up her minutes. And one thing we know about this Matilda side is their ability to come good at the right moment when called upon. And it's been a whole kind of storyline throughout the last 12 and 18 months. Your captain's out injured, you don't have a coach, you're sitting in limbo. It is all about being ready at the right moment. And we still have a few months to go towards the Asian Cup. The level of competition means that there will be an opportunity to build into the tournament as well. That can't be forgotten. Like, given the standard of opposition, it's absolutely a disaster if the Matildas don't even go to make like a semi-final, right? So to be able to build up and move towards the critical point in the tournament allows for things like Joe Montemurro to only be in the role for 6 months in the lead up, and Sam Kerr only just coming back to full fitness. So she's absolutely crucial. And as much as we've talked about, the non-ideal way of build up to this tournament, there's still a lot of opportunity there. And as long as they get that preparation right in the last few months, I think they'll go okay.
Yeah, and Montemurro talked about that with his squad selection of a lot of familiar names coming through from the last window, a couple of players dropping out, a couple of players coming back in. But he said, the most important thing is that, he's been able to stabilize the squad and get the bulk of the squad back in, while noting that there are still a few decisions to make. But overall, it gives him a good opportunity to look at a couple of areas that, need to be worked out for squad balance. And, he was asked specifically about Tamika Yallop and Carly Johnson coming back in. And on Yallop, he said that he needs a midfielder that can break lines, and that Yallop has shown that she can do that. While on Johnson, talked about, players out wide being important, that he's looking for players with speed and power of, that Johnson provides, which is why he brought in Courtney Vine. It's, Hayley Razzo's there as well. Brought in Vine in the last window, I should say. And that just from a squad balance perspective, he wants to have a look at Carly Johnson. Overall, like, the vibe I'm getting from that is that he has his locked on idea of what he wants his Asian Cup squad to look like. And this is just a good chance to put more of his tactics in place and just sort of sanding out the edges, so to speak.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be too many surprises in terms of the squads from here on out. Maybe there's going to be those one or two bolters on the fringe of the squad that are maybe competing for minutes off the bench. But the bulk of the starting 11 is known, and those kind of 13 or 14 players are going to be core parts of the matchday squad. They're not going to change, right? So Montemurro, again, we think about the fact of the time that he's had. He hasn't had the luxury of that kind of really broad experimentation with the squad compared to the likes of, Tony Popovich with the Socceroos that we've been talking about the last 3 windows. Montemuro's job is to turn that core squad and teach them the way that he wants them to play football for the Asian Cup. So in terms of those fringe selections, I agree. Like, there's not too much there. There's a couple of ins and outs that, you're fighting for the last couple of spaces on the Asian Cup squad, which for those players is obviously a big deal that shouldn't be shied away from. But in terms of the impact on matches, it's all pretty sorted.
Yeah, and then he also gave some injury updates from his press conference this morning, that he's been in touch with Melbourne City. It was just a knock for Holly McNamara in the Asian Women's Champions League game on Sunday night. She left that game quite early in what was a 7-0 win for Melbourne City. We'll be talking more about that on this week's episode of the Dubcast. So
just on that game as well, I saw City tweeted out either at halftime or full time of that game. They're like, everyone, don't worry. It's just precautionary. We know Holly McNamara going off with injuries is a really cautious ground. Don't worry. It's just, she's okay. We're winning 7-0. It's all good.
Yeah. I mean, Burke and I have a running joke between us that Holly McNamara has absolutely zero self-preservation skills. Because every time she takes a knock, she goes tumbling over. But yeah, so this is just a knock there. She'll be fine. She was called into camp. He was asked about Mary Fowler as well, that, they're giving her a little bit more time, but that, he thinks that she'll be right for the Asian Cup. I mean, I know modern medicine is an absolute marvel, but to be returning from an ACL injury that quickly, Lachie, it just blows my mind that, the recovery that players can do in the modern day.
Yeah, and when she did it, everyone's eyes kind of go straight to the calendar. That Asian Cup was always going to be really close either way, right? So I reckon it's different for a player when you have a target like that. If you're coming back midway through a season, it's okay, it's whatever, you're doing everything you can to make sure your body is right. To be 100% to build on for the rest of your career, right? You don't want to go too early and risk anything for the long term. But having the motivation of a tournament like this on home soil, we've just had the World Cup, we're getting the Asian Cup. Who knows before the Matildas get to play another tournament on home soil? It's probably going to be a fair while. This is the opportunity probably of Mary Fowler's lifetime after the World Cup, right? So having that motivation to get back, it's got to be a pretty firm driver, I think. So, look, she's an amazing player. She clearly has a very strong mentality. I wouldn't bet against her being ready for the tournament.
Just quickly as well today, before we sign off, he did mention that there was room for a bolter in the squad, and he does want to leave some doors open to give players a chance to come in if they're performing well, whether that be for their club sides in Europe or in the A-League women, and that he's got a depth chart of who he's looking at, and he said there's 20 players that he's looking at in terms of who could be the next one to come up, depending on who performs well and who doesn't. But he also touched on the Football Ferns squad, who are stacked with A-League women players as well. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be tricky, but it's important that we focus on what we need to do. And just looking at that, that New Zealand squad, the Football Ferns, I mean, so many names that are familiar, to A-League women fans in Australian football. You've got the likes of CJ Bott, who's at Wellington at the moment. You've got Kelly Brown at the Jets, Claudia Bunge, Millie Clegg, Ali Green, who has spent time in the Matildas setup herself. You got India Page Riley. You got Annalie Longo, who has, despite retiring from professional football, is still playing semi-professionally with Auckland United in New Zealand. So that's an interesting one as well. But I mean, Anna Leott gets a call up from the Jets after a strong start to the A-League women's season as well. This squad's absolutely stacked with talent. It's not going to be easy for the Matildas at all, is it?
No, and there is a groundswell of momentum across all of New Zealand football at the moment, and the women's national team are absolutely a part of that. They do go through this weird kind of back and forth with New Zealand because they don't play a whole lot of games at home, so they tend to be out of the ether a little bit. But in terms of their talent, we look at the Wellington Phoenix and the example they're setting in terms of professionalism and dedication to the women's game at a professional club level. Is honestly better than most of the teams on mainland Australia, right? So there is a lot of push there to really make women's football the best it can be. And, that rivalry between Australia and New Zealand is going to get renewed again. But, hopefully the Matildas can get the job done.
Yeah, so the two sides last faced off back in 2023, I want to say it was off the top of my head. I have it here in front of me. It was 2022. They played in Townsville and Canberra, which was 2-1 and 3-1 victories to Australia, respectively, across those two games. But that will do for this squad recap. Episode here of the Dubcast. The two games that the Matildas will play against New Zealand. First one will be on Friday, November 28 in Gosford. That game will be a Paramount exclusive game, so it won't be on free-to-air television. And then they play New Zealand in Adelaide on Tuesday, December 2nd, at the home of Adelaide United, Hindmarsh Stadium. That game will be on free-to-air television as well, so that will be on Network 10, 10 Play, and Paramount Plus. But Lachie, last two games before Joe Montemurro has to select his Asian Cup squad, it's going to be a stiff competition for everyone competing for a spot.
Yeah, absolutely. Last chance, at least in the national team sense, to put your foot forward. As I said, I think we kind of all know what you're going to get, but most crucially, just another window of development towards whatever Joe Montemurro wants his Matildas to look like come the Asian Cup. And yeah, hopefully it's a productive window for him.
And for any of our New Zealand listeners that have tuned in, both games in New Zealand will be available live and free on FIFA Plus and TVNZ. But we thank you very much for tuning in today. We'll be back on Wednesday to chat all things round 3 of the A-League Women and the Melbourne City's Asian Women's Champions League campaign.